now to space, and the US space shuttle Atlantis continues its mission and into the history books, hopefully. The shuttle is heading for a link-up with Russia's Mir space station. The margin of error is razor thin. CNN's John Holliman joins us with more on this first-of-its-kind space mission. John.
Stephen, this is going to be very exciting if it happens, and I think it probably will happen. The astronauts have practiced the rendezvous and docking maneuver in the past. The astronauts and cosmonauts aboard the shuttle and Mir very close together in space right now. They're moving toward each other at less than a meter a second at this moment. In less than 2 hours from now, the two ships will dock, and a few hours after that, the two crews will get to shake hands. The astronauts aboard Shuttle Atlantis explained what's happening in these final minutes of rendezvous procedure in an interview conducted a few days before launch.
We're going to be flying a very slow, very gradual closure in on the Mir. We have kind of a tight window that we need to stay within. I mentioned this R-bar, this orientation straight down below the Mir. We have to stay initially within an 8-degree cone of that line. Later on, as we get closer to the Mir, the requirement gets even tighter, and we have to stay within a 5-degree cone. And the reason being that our thrusters have the capability to damage the solar arrays and the structures on Mir if we aren't careful, if we fire thruster plumes towards the station. So it winds up being a very demanding, a very tightly controlled envelope that we have to stay within all the way up there.
We also have to time this approach so that at the moment of contact we are over a Russian ground site where they have communications and command links from the control center in Moscow to the station, so that at the moment of contact they can look at the instrumentation from on board their station and determine that their flight control system has gone into what we call free drift, so that at the moment the two vehicles contact, they're allowed to just drift together freely, and one is not tugging against the other with its automatic control system still engaged. That would create excessive loads at the interface point.
And when the hatch is fully open, and when we shake the hands of the entire crew of most competent astronauts on board the orbiter, this will be a new impetus to the rest of the program, and it will be a great pleasure to go through the rest of the program, and there is no doubt that we'll complete it with great success. What with the feelings that will fill us after that encounter.
One of the big questions that people ask me, or is asked by many people about the Russian space station, is what it's like inside this 100-ton spacecraft that has been flying for 9 years without ever coming back to Earth for a good cleaning. I asked the Mir's next commander, Anatoly Solovyev, the obvious question at a CNN interview earlier this month. Ask me that question. What does it smell like when you breathe in the first time you get aboard the Mir?
I was expecting some sharp or strong smells because this station has been on orbit for quite some time, and many people have visited it and worked there, plus all the equipment and hardware that is working and functioning and operating, and of course it produces some warmth, some hot temperatures, but again, like I said, you get used to it, and there's nothing in particular that bothers you.
The two ships will make contact in about 90 minutes from now. This is what it will look like when the actual docking occurs. Then 2 hours later, the hatches will be opened for a long visit between astronauts and cosmonauts. We're going to take you now to a live picture. This is the first picture we have seen today of the Mir, the Russian space station, as seen from the space shuttle. Now, in the middle of that screen, you see that triangular thing. That's the target that Shuttle Commander Hoot Gibson needs to line up on the docking port on board the Russian space station. The docking port on the Russian ship is a little bit to the left and down just a hair from where that target is right now. We can listen in to NASA commentary and the astronauts and cosmonauts talking back and forth.
Ride to the Mir space station. Continuing down the long axis of the Mir is the Covenant 1 module, the core module. In the center of the MIR configuration is the Crystal module's docking port, which is the target for Atlantis' docking system for its link up an hour and 37 minutes from now.
Atlantis, that was really a pretty rendezvous up to this point. Excellent work.
Dave, you'll have to hit us with...
Михайлович, мы тут прервались. Вот после вхождения в связь, когда мы будем телевидение подключать...
The voices you're hearing are the commander of the MIR, who you just saw in that earlier interview. The NASA commentator is Rob Navius.
MIR configuration is one V-shaped solar panel from the Spectre Science module. That's the newest science module, which was launched on May 20th and docked to the MIR on June 1st. Just to the left of the unfurled solar panel is the other V-shaped solar panel on Spectre, which failed to deploy.
That's the voice of astronaut Bonnie Dunbar, who is talking to the, speaking in Russian to the crew aboard the MIR.
For long-range station keeping, out the window we see MIR in attitude and we see the arrays all feathered.
The things that look like wings on either side of the main part of the airplane-like MIR are the solar panels, which provide electrical power to the Russian space station. They, as you can see, are not pointed so that there's a wide area facing the shuttle. The reason for that is to keep the shuttle's rocket blast from doing any damage to those panels. The plan was to get those panels out of the way as much as possible so that when the shuttle approaches, it won't do any damage or contaminate those panels with any exhaust gases. So the docking procedure appears to be right on schedule. The docking itself will occur, as I say, about 96 minutes from right now, and CNN International will have live coverage of this amazing handshake in space between two countries which used to be arch enemies.
Okay. All right, John Holloman, many thanks indeed.
The Space Shuttle Atlantis is edging towards the Russian space station Mir. The two spacecraft are moving towards each other at less than a meter a second. They're less than 80 meters apart and are scheduled to dock in about an hour. 2 hours later, the hatches will be opened and the crews will be able to meet. CNN's John Holloman will join us with a full report later. The U.S. Space Shuttle Atlantis continues its mission into space and into the history books. You can see live shots from the Russian space station Mir looking at the shuttle, approaching it now. The shuttle is heading for a link-up with the Russian space station. Well, CNN's John Holloman joins us for more on this first-of-a-kind mission. John, what's happening?
Well, Riz, they're getting very, very close right now. The two ships have been flying about 270 feet apart for about the past hour, and everything's working well, and so the close approach is occurring right now. I think if we have the live picture from space, we ought to take that and get my face off television as quickly as possible. But there you see a view looking down into the front of the space shuttle. At the bottom of your screen, just to the right of the word Atlantis, is one of the two rooftop windows on the shuttle. And then you can see the front windows at the top of your screen. On the left-hand side, you can see Commander Hoot Gibson, his left arm in the window. I saw him move his arm a minute ago. It's a remarkable picture coming as it is from over Russia. Astronaut Bonnie Dunbar is speaking in Russian to the crew on board the Russian space station Mir as they get closer. Why don't we listen for a minute, Riz, to NASA commentator Rob Navius as he brings us directly up to the minute.
Acquisition on TCS-1. You can use the seed range from TCS-2.
Okay, Dave, we'll give that a try.
The sound with more static in it is the sound coming from the Mir space station. The sound with a little less static is the sound coming from the shuttle.
30 seconds away.
And that's what's been giving it trouble. Evidently, it's in the process of trying to acquire, and the acquisition macro is shaded now because I had already done that once. Can I undo that and try it again somehow?
There's a minor problem in beginning the close approach, Riz. I'm not exactly sure what it is yet, but the astronauts and cosmonauts are talking about it. Maybe we'll find out something as they find out about it here. The pretty blue thing in the background is us. That's planet Earth, and
Atlantis now has initiated its final approach to the Mir space station. Commander Hoot Gibson and pilot Charlie Precourt flying Atlantis from the aft flight deck of the orbiter. initiating an approach at 4/10 of a foot per second, which will slow to 1/10 of a foot per second as the shuttle nears the 30-foot mark.
These movements are not the shuttle approaching very quickly to the mirror. They're the camera zooming in from the mirror to the side of the shuttle. This is a picture taken about an hour ago when the two ships were 270 feet apart. That is the Russian space station Mir, and this camera is located inside that docking adapter that's out in the back of Atlantis' cargo bay. The two white things in the upper left and upper right-hand side of your screen are what NASA and the Russians call petals. Those things will fold in as the two ships approach, and that's what makes them hook up once they get together, along with some latches. It's remarkable stuff. As I say, the two ships are much closer together right now, and I'm sure our producer and director, if we get more live pictures, will take the two of us off television.
Well, John, this maneuver by Commander Hoot Gibson is apparently one of the most challenging performed in 34 years of space exploration. That's what they're saying. I guess it's political and technical significance. Absolutely.
The technical part of it is, like Gibson said yesterday, I can't really describe it like anything on Earth, but it would be if you'd never driven an 18-wheel tractor-trailer truck before, doing it with your eyes closed. But it's very significant technically, and if the docking is done successfully, it's going to allow this International Space Station, U.S., Russia, and many of the other nations of the world to come together.
All right, John, thank you very much. We'll keep in touch to see what's happening with the Space Shuttle Atlantis and Mir Space.
A live report on an historic day in space. Special CNN coverage of the rendezvous and docking of the Space Shuttle Atlantis and the Russian space station Mir. Stay tuned.
This is a special report from CNN International.
Well, we cut short our Business Asia show today to bring you live coverage of the historic events taking place in space right now. The U.S. Space Shuttle Atlantis is about to start its docking with the Russian space station Mir. For a look at what's happening at this moment, we join our CNN U.S. domestic channel as the two aircraft come together.
International viewers in 200 countries around the world to our live coverage of the docking of the Space Shuttle Atlantis with the Russian space station Mir. Joining us in Houston, CNN science correspondent Miles O'Brien and astronaut Eileen Collins, first woman to pilot a space shuttle, who will almost certainly be the first woman to command a space shuttle on a future mission, perhaps similar to this. Now, folks, help me out. Is this is still picture from Mir, I guess. The picture's gotten a little grainy from our position. Is that probably because the Mir is losing radio contact with the ground or losing its television ability right now?
You know, it's hard to say, John. That's a possibility. Yeah. Certainly, the camera quality does vary on the Mir, and they have switched to another camera, which could be accountable for that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Eileen. That looks like a camera which might be in the middle of the docking ring on the Mir. Is that possible?
I believe so. It does not look like a handheld camera to me. The handheld cameras, you'll notice a little bit of movement, and normally they'll focus the handheld cameras on the crew or on the docking mechanism, and I think this is a fixed camera on the outside of Mir.
Is it? Now, it's on the outside of the Crystal module, which is at the bottom of Mir, toward Earth, which is exactly where Atlantis is headed. So this is sort of the Crystal eye view. Now, this is probably back to a handheld camera, which the cosmonauts are carrying around inside the main core of the Mir space station, giving us these spectacular views. And, of course, you're looking right there at the Earth beneath us, because the shuttle is between the Earth and Mir.
Okay, and it looks like they're at about 30 feet right now, so I'd imagine that Hoot is probably in the process of determining if he needs an angular alignment at this time.
Now, this angular alignment is essentially saying making sure the two craft are lined up properly.
That's right. You don't want to be off any more than 2 degrees in roll, pitch, or yaw, because if you are, you may have a failed contact. So it's very important to align it. Now, on our approach back in February, we didn't need an angular alignment because the approach, the commander flew the approach so well that it was not needed.
And we can only assume Hoot Gibson will probably be trying to do the same thing.
Fascinating stuff, Miles and Eileen. Eileen, you're a pilot, and you have piloted the space shuttle. Is this the most difficult piloting job anybody could ever have?
Well, I would say that flying the space, you know, I've flown many airplanes in my life, and I'd say the space shuttle is probably the most difficult airplane that I have flown. Probably the landing of the shuttle is one of the most difficult tasks that we do, because it is so pitch sensitive and difficult to land. But something like doing a docking with a spaceship is also difficult to fly. But on the other hand, you have some consequences. You know, what if you miss the docking attempt, or what if you make contact and you're not aligned properly? Could you possibly damage the hardware that the Russians have? And that's something that you don't want to do. So you need to be, for Hoot, he needs to be within plus or minus 3 inches and plus or minus 2 degrees in all the axes. So it is pretty tight.
Yeah, let's bring NASA commentator Rob Navius along. He is updating everybody on NASA television about how things are going.
To enable flight controllers here and in Kaliningrad outside of Moscow to make one final assessment of the relative health of their 2 spacecraft. Everything appears to be in excellent shape, and the orbiter docking system's docking ring is ready for its contact with the docking mechanism on the Kristall module.
The 2 ships now 30 feet apart and have been for about 3 or 4 minutes, Eileen and Miles. I was able to listen to Rob while
Once
you
the
were
final
talking.
approach is initiated 5 minutes from now, the shuttle will have available to it all of its jets, transitioning its digital autopilot from the low Z mode to the norm Z mode, as it is called. And again, at the point of contact between the 2 vehicles, the Mir will be commanded into what is called free drift, disabling for the moment its attitude control system to enable the orbiter docking system's docking ring to initiate the fine-tuning of the alignment between the 2 docking mechanisms prior to the initiation of the capture between the 2 vehicles.
So we're 5 minutes away from the final approach to docking, which will take about 5 or 10 minutes. We're going to take a quick break in our live coverage. We'll be right back. I'm sorry, I'm told the pictures are too good to play some commercials. We're going to stay here with these live pictures for a while longer. This is amazing. This is so fascinating.
I certainly concur with you, John. We probably should decipher a little bit of the jargon which Rob Navius just came out there. A low Z approach is a fancy way of saying the shuttle is not using the jets which point directly at Mir. And there's some common sense reasons for that. They don't want to cause any contamination to the solar panels. They don't want to damage the Mir, and they don't want to knock it out of attitude. Now, when you're on a low Z approach like that, and you only are using thrusters which kind of go out this way, you use a lot more propellant, don't you?
Well, that's true. And I might mention that the word Z comes from the Z axis, which goes in this direction. And norm Z, as Miles said, will fire this way. Low Z will fire the forward jets and the aft jets, but they are canted slightly in the up direction, so they will slow, but they use 9 times the amount of fuel that the norm Z jets use. So it is expensive to do that, but on the other hand, you can see the solar arrays. If they get hit by the jet firings, they could be damaged. And we've also the Russians have also feathered the solar arrays in this direction to minimize any possible jet firings that may accidentally go that way.
The picture that's on TV right now, just in case you're interested, is the Space Shuttle's TV transmitting antenna. They call it the KU band antenna. It's similar to what we have on our satellite trucks around the world. It's being used now not to send live pictures from the shuttle, but it's used in a docking situation to act as one way to tell the people inside exactly how close the 2 vehicles are. This is a very close-up view inside the cargo bay of the shuttle. That's a place where astronauts would come out if they had to take a spacewalk, and or where they normally come out when they do that. The docking adapter ring is at the bottom middle of your TV screen right this minute.
2 minutes away from reinitiating its final approach to the Mir space station.
Let's talk a little bit about the approach that we're dealing with here. The approach is a little different than the one you flew, Eileen, is it not?
Yes, it's different in the sense that this crew, this shuttle is coming from below. The Earth is below here. When we flew back in February, we came from the side along the velocity vector. We have since found that it's probably more fuel conservative and use less jet firings if you come from below. So that will be the approach of the future.
So what we're talking about here are some orbital mechanics. Essentially, things which are above things are moving slower, right?
That's
As
correct.
you go up, you slow down because that's the way gravity works and the way physics works. So you're taking advantage of nature, you're not having to use as much propellant. So it's, in theory, it's an easier approach, isn't it?
Well, we have found through training that it is a little bit easier to fly when you come in from below because you have less, the pilot has less inputs to make. And we'll do anything we can to save a little bit of fuel because, as you know, it's expensive and we only can carry a certain amount up to space with us.
Eileen, Miles, let's listen in for just a second to hear the latest update from NASA. Eileen Collins, as you pointed out, they don't say very much. And We have about another minute here before we have to take a break to let our local cable systems get involved for a moment or two. But we'll continue to look at these live pictures and have our discussion up until we have to take that break. And we'll be back at a couple of minutes before the hour to watch the final docking.
Away from reinitiating its approach to the Mir space station. We should be acquiring a television picture from Atlantis looking at the Mir at 7:57 Central Time, about 2 minutes from now. That picture will remain until 2 minutes after contact at 8:02 a.m. Central Time. Contact expected straight up at 8 a.m.
So what's going to happen in the next couple of minutes is the two ships will get closer and closer together. We'll take our break. When we come back, we will probably have a split screen for you. On one side, we'll have the picture from Mir of the shuttle. On the other side, picture of the shuttle from the Mir. So we'll take a little break. Don't go away. We've got some even more exciting stuff to show you when we get back. Stay with CNN and CNN International.
The following is CNN's coverage of a live event.
Welcome, John Holloman at CNN Center in Atlanta. We'll be joined in a moment by Eileen Collins, shuttle pilot, who's with the CNN science correspondent Miles O'Brien in Houston. But first to the live pictures from space. You can see now a split-screen view as the shuttle Atlantis and the space station Mir are moments away from docking. It'll happen within the next minute and a half if it is directly on schedule. On the left, you see the Mir space station in the upper left of your screen. At the bottom of your screen, you see the docking adapter on board the shuttle. And on the right, you see the camera that Shuttle Commander Hoot Gibson is looking through as he lines up that docking ring with its opposite part on the Mir, unless I am mistaken. Eileen, Miles, join me here. Correct me if I'm wrong, and we'll just listen in to the final few seconds of this docking.
You are correct about those pictures. Now, I'm curious about the picture on the right, Eileen. Does Hoot Gibson have any sort of crosshairs on his picture so that he can line up crosshairs with the crosshairs on the Mir so that he has a good indication of where he is?
Yes, he does, but he's primarily flying off. If you look at the picture on the right, you see the small black cross in the middle. That is actually a standoff cross. It's standing out by a foot or so he gets depth perception, and he needs to line up those black lines with the outer black lines. And it looks like he's almost right on there. It's very close in the roll, pitch, and yaw axis.
So we might be seeing the crosshairs, it's just that he has it lined up so well we can't necessarily...
He's got them lined up exactly, so we can't see the depth on it right now.
Look at the picture on the left as the two spaceships are inching closer and closer together. We'll actually see the docking, I think, on that picture on the left.
Yeah, he's within a few feet right now. When he gets within about 1 inch, Hoot will press a button to fire the post-contact jets that will make what we call a soft dock. And you may be able to see this in the picture. You might see some rocking. And that should happen momentarily. I might add that the time at 8 o'clock is not quite as important as having the correct closure rate.
Look at that.
Look at that. Here we go.
He's very close now. That's it. Soft docking.
There's sort of shock absorbers down on the shuttle that are taking some of the hit here, right, Eileen?
You're getting a little bit of rotation from the shuttle, and there are some what you could call shock absorbers to dampen that out.
Yeah. I should note we're right on time here. There's some precise timing involved, as we discussed earlier. Plus or minus 2 minutes, and Hoot Gibson nailed it.
I'm very impressed.
Now, explain this free drift, Eileen. They just commanded the shuttle and the Mir to go into this.
Okay, the free drift mode will not allow any jets to automatically fire. At this point, you don't want any jets to fire unless you have commanded it. So, free drift mode, the only jets that will fire are the ones that Hoot commands specifically or that someone manually commands aboard Mir.
Okay, let's listen in to NASA commentator Rob Navius and the astronauts and cosmonauts for a bit.
Так, телевизию, наверное, можно выключить. Да, день ходим.
Volodya, захват подтвержден.
Да, Боря, приняли. Захват тоже подтверждаем. Принято на центральном посту.
Commander Vladimir Dezhurov aboard the Mir also confirms capture.
I think you were hearing the Russian version of howdy a few times back and forth there.
Mechanical systems officer here reports that the two docking mechanisms are now aligned. The docking ring on Atlantis should be retracted shortly. Once fully retracted, the structural mating of the hooks and latches on both sides of the docking interfaces will be underway.
And that's the picture down into the shuttle from a camera on board the Mir.
This whole process takes about 20 minutes from here, right? Before you actually get a hard dock, Eileen?
Yeah, I think it's about 20 to 30 minutes, I would guess. And it's once that happens, we need to repressurize the docking tunnel before you can open the hatch. So it's going to take a while.
Eileen, explain to me why you have to drive the shuttle. You have to fire thrusters on the bottom sometime in the next 20 minutes to force the shuttle up into the Mir. Why don't they just, now that they're connected, why can't they just latch the latches and say that's that?
Well, I believe that you just need a little extra push is insurance against making sure that you have the contact. You don't want to miss it, because if you miss it and then you try to close the latches, obviously you won't have a good contact there, and you'd have to back away and do it over again. So it's really insurance against making sure that we do have a good, firm contact.
All right, we're going to listen in now live to the conversation as this process takes place.
The docking ring is now slowly retracting. That will bring the two docking interfaces flush against one another. And once that occurs, the relative motion between the two vehicles will be dampened out by shock absorbers in the orbiter docking system, enabling the structural mating of the hooks and latches on either side of that docking interface between the Cristal and Atlantis to begin. That will be about a 3 to 5 minute process. Once the hooks and latches are all hooked up together, then the capture ring will be extended slightly once again to enable the capture latches to be reopened, and the ring will be retracted one more time for final hard mating between the two vehicles.
The docking ring that Rob Navius is talking about is that shiny thing on the left side of your screen near the bottom. It will begin to slowly come down into the shuttle half of the Mir shuttle combination. And as you see, it's pulling the Mir down with it.
The docking ring was designed and built by the Russian firm Energia. It was initially designed for the Russian version of the space shuttle called the Buran, but it never flew or was docked because the Buran only flew one unmanned mission. The docking ring has been used before by the Russians, but never with a vehicle this large, so they really didn't know for sure that it was going to work in this situation. They ran through a lot of simulators. And we're getting a wave there from Hoot. Is that Hoot Gibson there?
Yeah, that's Hoot waving.
Who else is with him there?
And it's tough to tell.
From the Mir space station,
looks like one of the cosmonauts, I think.
Waving out the windows.
Okay, there's the two Russians that we can see right now.
In the window.
In the left window.
Soloviev and Budarin just a few hours away from moving into the Mir space station to take over control of the Mir from their colleagues, Commander Vladimir Dezhurov, Flight Engineer Gennady Strekalov, and cosmonaut researcher Norm Thagard, the first U.S. astronaut to fly on the Mir.
It's a very happy time for them to go back and see their home. I believe that was Commander Gibson and pilot Charlie Precourt in the right window.
Is this the moment where you can relax a little bit finally?
This is the moment where I do know that most of the crew members can relax at this point, but Greg Harbaugh, who's working the docking process, is probably pretty much in concentration right now.
How long will it take before they'll know whether there's a leak in the docking stack? I know they have to do the hard dock first, and then they start doing leak checks. How long will it take?
That's right.
Now reporting that
once we get the hard dock, it's going to take, well, at least, I would imagine, at least a half an hour. I'm not sure the exact numbers, but what we need to do is repressurize that docking tunnel that connects to Mir and make sure that it holds air. If there is any kind of leak, we'll have to troubleshoot it. But with the handshake that should be happening here within the next 2 hours, I'd imagine that it shouldn't take very long.
All right, we're going to continue to listen in.
There are 12 hooks in all, 2 sets of 6 hooks apiece, which will overlap.
Dave, if you're ready, we'll power off the TCS.
GNC concurs. TCS power down.
The TCS is the laser device which allows the pilot of the, or whoever is in command of the shuttle to know the range and rate at which it is closing.
Space station, this picture from the shuttle Atlantis.
We've got spectacular live TV.
Телевидение выключайте, это уже темнота. Так, телевидение. Yeah, you gotta see it from here.
We'd all like to. We're free drifting the right direction to help us with our beta mask. We're extending the TV coverage a bit.
Минуту, Володь. Так, выключаем. Анна 73. ИСА 319 тоже отключаем. Термостат оставляем.
Well, we've lost our live picture temporarily from space. The picture you were looking at there, the last shot that we saw, was the shuttle and the Mir and the docking ring, that sort of dark thing in the middle of the screen, showing that the two ships are as close together as they need to be, certainly, at this time in the mission. And we're gonna take a break, and we'll come back and probably show you a replay of the docking itself. We can get that ready. Stay with CNN for more live coverage.
Will then set out to conduct a series of leaks.
All right, we're back. Welcome back to our viewers at CNN in the United States, CNN International around the world. The shuttle and the Mir are docked. They'll be hard docked in a matter of seconds, and a lot of people are talking to each other in space. We're going to listen.
Mir Commander Vladimir Dezhurov on the Mir side of the docking interface. This will take about an hour to complete. Leak checks will be made to both the docking ports themselves, their respective hatches, the vestibule, the 3-foot-long tunnel in the orbiter docking system, which will be the passageway for the astronauts and cosmonauts over the next 5 days between each other's vehicles. Once that's complete and both sides report good leak checks, then the tunnel will be pressurized for the next 5 days. That will be the final step prior to the initiation and the approval from both flight control teams for the astronauts and cosmonauts to open up their respective hatches. That hatch opening is expected at 10 a.m. Central Time. The initial handshake between Commander Hoot Gibson and Mir 18 Commander Vladimir Dezhurov expected at that point, with live TV from both vehicles anticipated at that point. Shortly after those initial handshakes are completed, Gibson and his crew, including cosmonauts Anatoly Soloviev and Nikolai Budarin, will move into the Crystal module and then eventually into the Mir core module, where cameras will be set up once again for a welcoming ceremony and initial exchange of traditional items such as flowers, fruit, and chocolate from the shuttle crew to the Mir crew, and bread and salt from the Mir crew to the shuttle crew. With the ceremonial activities out of the way, the first order of business on the timeline will be a safety briefing that the 10 cosmonauts and astronauts will offer to each other so that they may understand emergency evacuation procedures from each other's vehicles in the event of a problem, which is not expected. Once that is completed, then Soloviev and Budarin will remove custom-made Soyuz capsule seat liners from an airlock in Atlantis and transfer those seat liners into the Mir space station. That will signify their assumption of command and control over Mir operations, and at which point the Mir 18 crew of Dezhurov, Strekalov, and Thagard will become part of the shuttle crew. Flight controllers here in Houston now checking with Russian flight controllers at the Mission Control Center in Kaliningrad to receive approval to maneuver the docked shuttle Mir configuration into an attitude that will re-enable solar power to pour onto the solar arrays of the Mir space station for electrical production. The shuttle will be...
When the live picture comes back, we will, of course, take you back there to it. Let us once again introduce CNN science reporter Miles O'Brien and astronaut Eileen Collins. The fact is that right now, the MIR and the shuttle Atlantis combination are a couple minutes away from being driven together in the hard docking procedure to be completed. Eileen, if we could get live picture, would we be able to see anything as the shuttle jammed itself up into the MIR, or would it be just the same kind of picture we were just looking at?
Well, John, I'm really not sure about that. In fact, I'm not really sure if the crew knows what they're going to see. Talking to Hoot beforehand, he was thinking that maybe he might see some clicks or some vibrations, but we're not really sure. Like we mentioned before, this is the first time we've had two spacecraft this large dock with each other, so there's a lot of unknowns, and I think we're just going to have to watch and see what happens.
Yeah, Rob Navius, the NASA commentator, was just talking about the fact that the ground controllers in Russia and in the United States are talking to each other. Is that a lot more complicated than it would be for a shuttle mission where you don't have other national people from other countries involved? The communication process, you know.
I would say it's probably twice as complicated because you have twice as many people who are listening, and the major complicating factor is the language. We're trying to learn as much Russian as we can, and the Russians are learning as much English, but yet you have to work many times through translators. And in a case like this where you could have emergencies develop, you need to have a protocol, which we do, ready to go to get immediate communication to both sides. And yes, it does add some complications, and I'd say it's mainly the language.
Yeah, well, everybody I've talked to in the U.S. space program and the Russian space program, including all the Russians who are involved in this mission in space right now, tell me, if only we spoke the same language, it would be so much easier. While we continue our conversation, let us show you some pictures from the past 60 minutes or so. We'll start out when the two spaceships are about 270 feet apart. This is the shuttle, as seen from the MIR when they're that distance apart. And I'll continue to update you on what we're watching, but basically you'll see the two spaceships get closer and closer together as we continue to talk with each other and listen to NASA commentator Rob Navius and perhaps others on the ground at NASA in Houston and other places as this mission continues. Eileen, you've done a mission close to this, obviously. Let's talk about the emotion of the crew as you're in this situation where you've gotten almost to the peak of the mission here. What's going through the minds? What's going through the hearts of the people on board those two spaceships right now?
Well, I would have to say, up until the point of capture, the crew was probably very, very focused on what they were doing, making sure they did everything right. Once capture happens and you realize it, there's a feeling of elation. We did it. We made it. We've been training for such a long time, and it's been successful. And actually, that's the feeling that I had down here, thinking back at the past 3 years that the two countries have been working together, trying to make this happen. It's just a wonderful feeling to see everything come together, especially Russia and the United States, who've many years worked against each other, are now working together for something as wonderful as cooperating in space.
How long have you been in the space program? A couple of years, right?
NASA since 1990, although I had my first flight just about, well, 4 or 5 months ago now.
Sure, I remember. You have seen the change in U.S.-Soviet, now U.S.-Russian relations. Did you ever expect to be able to do this, what's going on today, and probably the mission you will be able to fly someday and do your own docking?
Well, let me say that when I applied to NASA, I had no idea that I'd ever be working with the Russians on such a scale. It wasn't until, I'd say, 1992, 1993 that we really started talking about doing this. And as Russia started dropping their barriers and started becoming more open, we realized we can learn a lot from each other by taking our technical programs and our scientific programs and our medical knowledge and sharing it. And by doing it in space, we can add the extra variable of zero gravity to help us learn more than we can here on the surface of the Earth. I
got a live picture of Norm Thagard to show you, Eileen. We'll go up to one module on the MIR. Norm Thagard, man who's been in space more than 107 days now. His feet are just going out of view on the left. Did not expect to see this picture, but this is on board the MIR, the Russian space station. There's one of his Russian cosmonaut colleagues coming into view right now. Don't exactly know what this is, but I think we probably ought to give it a listen and just see what's going on and see if the hard dock has in fact occurred yet.
Please do delete the DAP inertial and your go for the maneuver on A auto Vern.
Okay, Dave, I copy. You are go for me to maneuver now to IL 101.4, which is the attitude we just did.
Affirmative.
And Dave, I'm standing by to proceed with the pressure checks and hatch opening sequence 2.4, starting with 4.
Norm Thaggart's on your left. Vladimir Dezhurov, the commander of the Mir, is in the middle, and Gennady Strekalov on the right. So
this is Mission Control Houston. This live picture being seen inside the Mir space station.
Здравствуйте,
Юрий Николаевич. Понял, мы слышим, мы сейчас будем говорить с руководством НАСА и РК России.
We kind of hope to have a translator for this for our viewers who understand English better than Russian. Perhaps we'll get that coming up here shortly.
Пусть подождут, пока ничего не делаем.
And maybe Norm Thaggart there on the left will speak a little English for us.
Bonnie, we're about to have a comm with Bonnie. Bonnie.
Спасибо, Bonnie.
Руководители, поговорим.
Принято.
Принято, Виктор Дмитриевич. Я не ошибся? Вроде голос Благовой. Тут, понимаете, ребят, какая-то оказалась проблема. Мы сейчас в канале Антареса, а все это руководство, и господин Голдин, и Коптев, они находятся на балконе. И что-то вот трубка это в режиме Антареса не функционирует. Сейчас они спустятся к нам, ну и тут скажут несколько слов.
We expect to hear the voice of astronaut Bonnie Dunbar aboard Atlantis, who was Norm Thaggart's backup for this mission. And she may be speaking Russian. Her Russian is probably better than any other American astronaut, with the obvious exception of Norm Thaggart, who's been speaking Russian almost constantly.
This is Mission Control Houston, this live television coming from the core module of the Mir space station, showing U.S. astronaut Norm Thaggart, Mir 18 commander Vladimir Dezhurov, and flight engineer Gennady Strekalov, as they prepare to accept congratulations from Russian Space Agency Director General Yuri Kopchev and NASA Administrator Daniel Goldin, who are both in the Russian Mission Control Center in Kaliningrad. This being seen just 21 minutes following the successful docking of Atlantis to the Mir.
We'll get a little bit diplomatic aspect of this great scientific mission now, as the heads of the two space programs call up to the Mir to congratulate everybody.
Норман, оставайся на связи, и вот на этой картинке. Давай.
Володь, я на связи.
Так, Геннадий Михайлович, набираем. С-01.
Час. Он не на связи.
The hard docking maneuver, where the shuttle was driven forcibly using thrusters into the Mir, has apparently been complete. When we came back a few minutes ago to these pictures, we heard some conversation about a particular procedure. Eileen Collins, if you can jump in here and let me know if you heard what I heard that indicates the hard dock has been completed, that would help our viewers.
Well, it's my understanding, I haven't heard directly yet from NASA, but I assume that the hard dock has been completed because the commander of Atlantis has been given a go to maneuver. Now, you would not maneuver the shuttle unless you did have a good solid hard dock, because keep in mind, they're connected now, so any maneuver that the shuttle makes will also maneuver Mir. So it's my guess that the hard dock has been completed.
Now, the shuttle is going to be doing more work for the Mir than would normally be the case on this trip, as I understand it. The shuttle will be steering the thing, keeping it where it's supposed to be in orbit. Is that because the shuttle, because it is taking away solar panel area from the Mir doesn't have as much power, as much juice as it normally would?
Well, I'm not really sure why we decided to do that, but it was decided pre-flight that the shuttle would primarily do the attitude control. Although Mir can also do attitude control, it is capable of that. I might add that we want to put the whole spaceship in an attitude during the flight where the Mir's solar arrays are facing the sun. And it's very important that we have that because the sun, as it hits the solar panels, will generate electricity for Mir. And Mir does need electricity now. and we're helping them out by using the shuttle to do the maneuvering.
Okay. Eileen, if you can do this, we're going to take a fairly wider picture that shows the entire model there on the left of our screen. Just show us what's what in that. Where are they? When we see the astronauts, where are they? And what are the various parts of the Mir?
Okay, let me start with the part of Mir that was first launched. Is the core module up here. It was launched in February of 1986. It's been over 9 years that the Russians have had this station in orbit. Secondly, they launched the Kvant 1 module. The Kvant 2 module, which is right here, was launched third, followed by Kristall, which is where the shuttle will be docking not only on this mission, but on the next 6 missions that we have planned over the next 2 years.
Yeah.
The Spectre launch just happened last month, and Spectre was recently attached. The solar arrays, as you see, will add power for each one of the respective modules, and with the shuttle docked on the what we call the long axis of Mir, we can add better stability to the whole spacecraft overall.
Are there any more
looking
places?
ahead to the
Go,
future,
Miles, jump in.
Looking ahead to future dockings, one of the issues on the Mir is the power, right? They're sort of having a brownout, so to speak.
Yes.
And in some of the future dockings, there are now 6 more ahead of us. We're going to be bringing up some power arrays and solar arrays to assist them.
That's a good question. The next docking mission that's scheduled is in October of this year, and that will again be Atlantis. And what we're going to do is bring up approximately this size, bring up what we call a docking module that will have extra solar arrays on it to add power. And as I mentioned, Mir is 9 years old. It's performing longer than the Russians thought it would, and obviously it's getting old. So we need to continue to upgrade the solar arrays so they can keep the spacecraft up there as long as they possibly can.
How critical is the power problem on Mir right now?
Well, you know, I'm not really sure what the answer to that question is. I do know that they do have smaller margins, or a smaller amount of power that they originally thought they would have. And anticipating future problems, you want to correct for them now. I don't think that Mir is in any danger of totally losing its power, but we're thinking ahead and we're planning for the future.
Now, looking ahead toward what's going to happen in the next few days, we've been talking about the next 6 missions. Let's talk about the next few days. There's a lot of activity that's going to go on between the 2 ships. Equipment going in and out, back and forth, to and fro. A lot of scientific experiments underway. Can you give us just a brief overview of what we can expect?
Okay, well, obviously the main transfer that's going to take place is the cruise. We are going to bring back our astronaut Norm Thagard and the 2 cosmonauts who've been up there for 3 months. And we're going to drop off the 2 cosmonauts who launched on shuttle. Will take over Mir. That's the main transfer. The second most important one, I would say, is the scientific experiments that have been aboard Mir with Norm Thagard for the past 3 months, and some things that were on Spectre. Some of these things will be brought back on the shuttle for analysis back on Earth. We're also doing some transfer of equipment. We brought supplies. We brought water. There's going to be a lot of movement back and forth between this docking tunnel over the next 5 days.
In all, they'll be together about 100 hours. It's going to be an interesting 100 hours, and we'll have continuous live coverage from Houston, from space, and from Atlanta. And with that, I kick it back to John.
Miles, Eileen, thanks a lot for your expert commentary. We're not getting any live pictures from space right now, so what we're going to do is conclude this part of our live coverage, but this mission's going to continue for another 7-8 days, and CNN and CNN International will be here to continue to bring you up to date as things change and as we get more pictures from space. John Holloman, CNN reporting.
Okay, that's good news, Hoot. Sorry we took so long getting them to you, but I was a little busy earlier. Beautiful job on the rendezvous.
Astronauts and cosmonauts aboard the Space Shuttle Atlantis and Russian Mir space station have already made history this day by docking the shuttle at the Mir. Well, now they're preparing to go one step further by making physical contact. CNN's Miles O'Brien joins us now live from the Johnson Space Center in Houston with the latest. Hello, Miles.
Hello, Riz. It's less than an hour to go before that historic handshake in space. Crew members aboard the Space Shuttle Atlantis and the Space Station Mir have all but completed their leak test to make sure there's a nice airtight seal between these 2 huge craft as they orbit above the Earth. You're looking at a live picture right now. This shot comes from the cargo bay of the Space Shuttle Atlantis. You're looking at the Kvant module of the Space Station Mir, and you're looking right at the spot where those 2 vehicles mated about a little more than an hour ago. Let's watch and listen to the sights and sounds of that historic moment.
2 of those solar panels. Flight controllers here standing by for contact and capture of the 2 vehicles against one another.
2 фута.
2 фута.
1 фут.
1 фут.
Houston, Atlantis, we have capture.
Copy, capture.
Станция перешла в индикаторный режим.
Joining me now live is astronaut Eileen Collins, who knows a lot about the space station Mir. In February, she was the pilot of a space shuttle, which got within 37 feet of the space station as part of the rendezvous, which was a dress rehearsal for today's docking. Thanks for joining us, Eileen. There's got to be a great sense of relief, not only in orbit, but also on the ground here in Houston.
Oh, that's definitely true. This is historic in the sense that not only is it 20 years since the first docking between an Apollo-Soyuz capsule, United States and Russia, but it's also the culmination of 3 years of work between the two countries in making all this happen. And my mission was just one event in that process to make sure that today's event would be successful, and it is, and we're just very happy about it here at NASA.
Now, there was a handshake in space between Americans and Russians almost exactly 20 years ago,
That's
the Apollo-Soyuz mission. How does that mission differ from this mission today?
Well, I would say, you know, the world was different 20 years ago, and it was important to us to join with the Russians and work in space, but after the Apollo-Soyuz mission in 1975, we did not continue. What's different now is this is the first of 7 docking missions that we'll have over the next 2.5 years. And I would say that we're on a roll right now. This is the beginning, and I think that I'm very optimistic, and I know NASA and the Russian Space Agency is very optimistic that we can continue to work together to make the space program in both countries better.
Now, the two craft, these 2 quarter-of-a-million-pound craft, will be joined together for about 100 hours, nearly 5 days. A busy time on both craft?
Well, definitely, it's going to be busy. Time in space is precious, and time in space is expensive, and we want to make sure that we can get the most of what we can out of this. Primarily, we're going to be doing the crew exchange, as we talked about earlier. We'll be doing equipment exchange, supplies, we'll be exchanging water, and it'll be a time for us to take a look at our scientific experiments and make sure that they are completed, and we can bring them back and analyze them after the flight.
This mission is a little bit about science, but a lot about just building trust and proving some basic concepts. If the idea is to build a space station together, Russians and Americans, these kinds of things have to be routine, don't they?
Well, that's right, and the space station is the next step. After we complete our 7 docking missions, we plan on building an international space station with the Russians and with the Europeans, the Japanese, the Canadians, and it will truly be an international space station. We hope to start launching those pieces in late 1997 or early 1998, and what we're doing here is proof that we can, in fact, work together in space, do it safely and successfui.
All right, thank you very much, astronaut Eileen Collins. That hatch opening and the ceremonies which will follow, which will include an exchange of gifts and an exchange of a few words between both crews, will happen in a little less than an hour, about 45 minutes, and stay with CNN. We'll have coverage for you as it happens. Riz?
Miles, thanks very much. Atlantis and Russian space station Mir are preparing for a historic handshake. The U.S. space shuttle Atlantis is now docked with the Russian space station. Once pressures equalized between the two spacecraft, the crews will open their hatches, shake hands and exchange gifts. The 2 cosmonauts being ferried by Atlantis will then board Mir for the rest of their mission.
The following is CNN's coverage of a live event.
History is being made 200 miles above the surface of the Earth in the now docked Atlantis MIR combination. We're going to take you there now, where a live picture is coming down to Earth showing the hatch between the 2 vehicles, which is about to be opened. NASA and Russian Space Agency officials say that hatch will be opened in about 90 seconds from now, and we will watch as it happens. This is Shuttle Commander Hoot Gibson holding a microphone on the Atlantis side of the combined spaceship. Let's listen to what he has to say. He's turning the knobs, the control handles on the hatch. About to open that hatch and make history. It's been 20 years since Russians and Americans in their own spaceships docked in space and said hello. Here comes the hatch.
A lot easier without gravity.
At the other end of that tunnel, the Russian space station Mir. A lot of bright lights in that tunnel, probably for the purposes of these television pictures that we're seeing. And you can see at the far end of the tunnel, top of your screen in the middle, the Russian cosmonauts and astronaut Norm Thagard. Here they come. That's history, ladies and gentlemen. A handshake in space between a Russian commander and an American commander. Vladimir Dezhurov on the Russian side at the top of your screen. Norm Thagard at the bottom of your screen. I'm sorry, not Norm Thagard. Hoot Gibson, the shuttle commander, at the bottom of your screen. Thagard's back there in the far end of the picture in the background. He'll be showing up momentarily.
То есть вы снимаете там, как все они туда проходят?
Хорошо. Да-да-да, я понял. Ты продолжаешь снимать, а мы проходим туда дальше. И здесь потом самый последний уходит, и камеру выключают.
Володь, давай.
Смотрите. Нет, ты стой на месте, а мы рядом с тобой пройдем.
We've been asked by our viewers from time to time what language they speak, and often they speak a translated English to Russian, but most of what we've been hearing from the microphone that's open out there is Russian.
He wants to do everything in the base block. Okay, yeah, well, we were going to bring our cameras and all that stuff into the base block. Okay. Well, as soon as it's already...
I can hear Norm Thagard, the American who's been aboard the Mir, talking about moving some cameras around. One thing that will happen in the next couple of minutes is some of the cameras that are on board the space shuttle will be taken back into the Mir.
The Mir space station.
Well, you can see Flight Engineer Greg Harbaugh doing that now. When the TV cameras get moved from one ship to the other, we'll probably lose our picture for a couple minutes.
Hey guys, what's the plan? Well, let's go into the base block. Yeah, let's just tell Houston we're going to break down the camera here and go to the base block.
While this is happening, let me invite my colleague Miles O'Brien, CNN science reporter, to join us from Houston, along with astronaut Eileen Collins. Eileen, let me go to you first, if I may. What are you feeling? How do you like these pictures?
Well, in a little ways, it's taken me back home, just watching how the astronauts maneuver in space. But right now, I'm feeling very good, very happy. I know that these crews have trained together for over a year, and now they're getting to see each other again in space after this long anticipation.
They almost seem like excited tourists.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a good way to describe it? Everybody's got cameras all over the place,
Oh, yeah.
A lot of smiles.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is the kind of thing you want to document for the future. I mean, this is history being made right now. And, you know, I can just, you know, sense with them what they're feeling right now, how happy they are. Again, not just to see their co-workers and their friends, but to have accomplished such a successful mission up to this point.
This was a tricky mission, and they all made it look very routine, didn't they?
Well, yeah, I would have to say it went pretty flawless, and not only did it look routine, but it looked easy. And I can tell you right now that it was not easy. It was a lot of hard work to get where they are right now.
Eileen, what are all these white cables? Looks like we're in the inside of a spaghetti factory going wild here.
Well, my guess right now, I'm not sure what they all are, but I would guess that they're just the camera cables from the camcorders, the handheld camcorders in the pictures that we're getting downlinked right now.
Okay. This is something. It's it must be quite a moment for those people. This is 10 people together in space a record?
That's a good question.
I think it is.
Off the top of my head, I would have to say yes. I don't think we've ever had, Apollo-Soyuz had 5 total, 3 Americans and 2 Russians. And I don't think we've ever had this many together in space.
I think on Mir, for short periods of time, they've had 6 or maybe 7 cosmonauts. So, yeah, I believe this probably is a record.
Is this a view from the Mir side or from the shuttle side? Looks like the Mir side, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right. That does not look like the shuttle. I would hope to see this as a sign of the future, that we do have crews this large in space and even more people in the future, and someday we'll be able to fly more and more astronauts and cosmonauts with broader backgrounds.
You know, Mir kind of looks cluttered, doesn't it? There's an awful lot of cables and ductwork, and sort of has an ad hoc look to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I would have to admit, you know, Mir has been up there 9 years, and they are doing quite a bit of science on Mir, and they want to take advantage of every bit of space that they have, and because of that, they're going to cram in as much as they can. The key thing is you need to remember where everything is. You don't want to lose it, and you don't want to mix up any of your equipment.
I did some air conditioning work in my attic a couple summers ago, Miles, and that's what it looks like. These plastic pipes, you know, going everywhere. All right, looks like we've lost our... Nope, no, it's back. There's Hoot Gibson and Vladimir Dezhurov.
Well, you know, this is in stark contrast to the designs you see for the International Space Station, which is very sleek and designed in such a way that it'd be very modular, and a lot of the ductwork and wiring would be transparent to the astronauts and cosmonauts who are on board. So I guess the idea is to reduce the amount of on-orbit maintenance, right? So you can conduct your scientific mission?
And another good thing about working with the Russians right now, along the lines of what you're saying, is that we can learn from the Russians what they've done on their space station, problems they've had, things that have worked, and we can learn from them what has worked well. We'll use that. What hasn't worked well, we'll try to design it better. So we have learned from them.
Using the model here, tell people where we are right now, so they can get a sense of where we are in the Mir, right?
In the Mir station, as you can see, put
that up here.
We are docked right now.
Yes, maintain the docking.
As you cross through the docking tunnel here, you will enter the what's called the Crystal module, which is one of the later modules that's been added to Mir. And from there you can cross into the core module, or Spectre, or Cavant 2. I believe these pictures are probably being taken from Crystal right now, although they will be moving throughout the space station.
Now, compared to the internal volume of the Mir, it's a lot more space than a shuttle astronaut is used to, right?
That's right. The space shuttle, primarily the astronauts live in the front portion, in the flight deck and the mid-deck. This mission has a module in the back called a space lab, which adds extra experiment space. But for the most part, a space station will just multiply over and over again the amount of space you have on a shuttle, which is why we want to build a space station, international space station, with the United States and our international partners.
I mean, do you know offhand how much, by way of comparison, how much more space there is on the Mir compared to the shuttle?
I can only guess how much more space. I do know that the shuttle weighs about 100 tons, and the Mir is just a little bit greater than that. So the weights are about the same. But when you look at the shuttle, humans cannot live, for the most part, in this portion of the shuttle, where we can live in the vast majority of the volume of Mir. So there is quite a bit more space.
You get a sense here of, and I'm sure it's just a historical fluke or coincidence, on how the two programs complement each other. The Russians took a turn for space station and built this space station. We took a turn and built a space truck, so to speak.
That's right.
Truck and space station are meeting, and the two, in many ways, complement each other, don't they?
That's right. You might wonder how the Russians get back and forth to their space station, and what they have is this, what we could call a capsule at the top. It's called a Soyuz capsule, very similar to what we used in the Apollo program back during the moon landings. And the cosmonauts are launched on Soyuz, they re-enter on Soyuz. They don't land like a shuttle. The shuttle, as you know, lands like an airplane. The Soyuz actually has a parachute come out, and they do what's called a soft landing on the ground. And that's why they have seats that are specifically made for the cosmonauts, form fit to their bodies, so they don't get injured on the landing. The programs are quite different, although I do see us, our differences complement each other, and the things that we have in common, I think are in common just because of the pure necessity of spaceflight.
The things that are going on right now aboard the Mir, I guess all the pictures that we're seeing from space are from the Mir, and it appears that the Russian commander, Vladimir Dezhurov, is showing Hoot Gibson around his space station. And because you see Dezhurov and you see Gibson together there, and there's somebody behind him carrying a camera. Ellen Baker, who's the medical doctor who came up on the shuttle, was her main job at this part of the mission was to be the photographic officer, so she may be running that camera. But you can see the cosmonauts are very happy to show off their digs to the first American since Norm Taggart to come up there in history of the Mir space station. But this is kind of an interesting shot. This is at the end of one of the modules. I think this is probably where Norm Taggart got some congratulations from the administrator of NASA, Daniel Golden, a little while ago, which we were able to hear about here on CNN in our coverage.
You know, picking up on the point that Eileen was making about the Soyuz capsule, that the shuttle offers the Russians an opportunity to bring a lot of equipment off of the Mir, which is stuck there, right? Because they don't have the capability of bringing as much equipment back as we do with the shuttle, right?
That's right. Although they do have a Progress spacecraft, which looks like the Soyuz, but only has the capability to go up. On re-entry, the Progress vehicle will burn up in the atmosphere. So using the shuttle to help out the Mir cosmonauts and to help out Russia really has been enhancing their program.
Hoot Gibson has the microphone, the air-to-ground microphone in his hand for the shuttle's radio system. I don't know if he's going to say anything on the radio or to us down here, but if he does, we'll probably interrupt whatever else we're talking about to come back here to it. It appears that everybody's there. There's Bonnie Dunbar, and she's reaching across to shake hands with the Russian cosmonauts. All of these people, of course, are friends. This is not the first time they met. They have been training together for a couple of years. Bonnie Dunbar has spent most of the past couple of years in Russia, learning the language, learning the Russian system.
By Gennady Strekalov for Bonnie Dunbar. The two trained together in Star City for a year for the Mir 18 launch. Dunbar is the backup to Norm Taggart.
That's the voice of NASA mission commentator Rob Navius. It's a nice little welcome aboard ceremony, it appears. We'll be seeing more of the astronauts as they go into the more roomy Mir space station.
Now, there's quite a bit of ceremony involved in all of this, as you know, John. Hoot Gibson will be presenting to the Mir crew flowers, fruit, and chocolate. And Vladimir, going to mispronounce his name, Dorozhov, will be presenting
being taken
the Mir 19 crew with bread and salt.
Entrance by Atlantis' crew into the Mir space station. All of the crew members will be positioned shortly to begin a brief welcoming ceremony.
Kind of have everybody lined up, I guess, by height for the class picture here as they get together. Yeah, the guys on Mir haven't had Florida grapefruit and Florida oranges fresh in a while. They'll get some in the next hour or two because that's the fresh fruit that the astronauts are bringing.
Copy, we have you loud and clear, and we have a great image inside the Mir space station.
That's astronaut Dave Wolf, the Capcom, who was just talking to Gibson.
It's a great image from here too, Dave. This is quite a view and quite an experience. A wonderful culmination to an awful lot of work on a lot of people's parts.
Hoot Gibson said he was going to practice the words that he said in this ceremony, practice to make sure he said just the right thing.
The rest of the crew members now congregating.
We concur, and it looks like you're all thoroughly enjoying yourself.
We're just having no fun at all.
I think Mr. Gibson may not be telling the whole truth.
I think we have a lot of work and a lot of science for the rest of this mission.
Now, Norm Taggart is on the front row, and he's almost hidden by the flight engineer of the Mir, but you'll see him second from the left on the front row, maybe in a minute.
Attention, please. We are attention for second, but...
Dave, I don't know if you heard Gennady, but Gennady said the first part of the adventure is over and we're waiting for the second part, which is the landing. I guess in actuality there will be many, many, many second parts.
Copy that loud and clear, Hoot. We have a long history in front of us and a lot of accomplishments to make.
Gennady Strekalov in the green vest on the front row, now second or third on the front row, if you can see him. He's a humorist. He has a very affable fellow, tells a lot of funny stories. Well, I think we may be waiting for Ellen Baker to get in the picture so that we can do this photo opportunity.
For the first time in spaceflight history, there were 3 commanders aboard one spacecraft. Anatoly Soloviev, the Mir 19 commander on the left.
More room now than we had with Apollo Soyuz.
That's for sure, Dave. We had kind of tight quarters right at the actual contact point, but as you can see, we have a whole lot more room here in the base bluff.
The Apollo Soyuz mission was consummated July 17th, 1975, when astronauts and cosmonauts first, and the only other time they have shaken hands in space.
You know, John, that's a famous docking in more ways than one. In many ways, the Russians felt that the docking at that time was a little bit harder than they liked. It was a bit of a jolt.
Continue to capture the historic moment of 10 crew members aboard the Mir space station. Commander Anatoly Soloviev, the Mir 19 commander, is on the left. Atlantis commander Hoot Gibson on the right. Mir 18 commander Vladimir Dezhurov is out of camera range at the moment.
Dave, we're just wondering how much time do we have television, because we do want to stick our sticker to the wall here somewhere.
13 more minutes of television coverage.
Well, that tells us all something, doesn't it?
Okay, thank you. We're still trying to convince Ellen to get into the picture here, and we're about to fasten the camera down and get her to take part in this, too.
Copy.
Ellen Baker, the medical doctor, you can see much of her on the left half of your screen right now as they try to get her on television, is going to be conducting medical tests on Norm Thagard and the 2 long-duration Russian cosmonauts, starting in the next couple of hours after these opening ceremonies and a safety briefing on how do we get out of here if something goes wrong. There's Ellen Baker walking toward the rest of her colleagues across the deck of the Mir. And as soon as she gets there, we'll be able to hear this ceremony.
I think the camera to cosmonaut and astronaut ratio is about 1 to 1.
Yeah. Maybe more than that, Miles. There may be more cameras than astronauts. If you count the TV.
Now, you know, going back to that, the Apollo Soyuz mission, the Russians have long sort of jokingly kidded NASA about the hard dock that occurred there. It was a little faster than they thought. I think it's safe to say that this was not a hard dock in that sense, Eileen. It seemed like it was a rather gentle maneuver.
Yeah, from what we were looking at here, it looked like Hoot was right on the closure rate of 0.1 feet per second at the point of capture. And as far as his left, right, up, down, fore, aft alignment, he was right on. And he did an absolutely wonderful job. We're real proud of him.
Eileen, what does this mean? Go out with me 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. The fact that this has worked so well so far, what does that tell you, somebody who works for the U.S. space program, about how it's going to be in the future?
Well, without a doubt, I'd have to say that this shows that when you work really hard and you set your mind to do something and you work together as a team, you can accomplish anything. This was no small task. This took at least 3 years of hard work on both sides.
We're looking forward to that.
It's just I mean, this is an opening ceremony in more ways than one. It's the first flight of 7 docking missions, and I think they're all just going to go great if everything is an indicator as what we've had today.
We're all fine down here, and we're sure looking forward to your return to Earth. And hello from all your friends in the United States. Just great to see you again. You look great.
Well, thanks a lot. Now, I understand that you're interested now in signing up for the program. Is that right?
It looks like a great program to be a part of. We all feel a part of it down here, in fact.
It is. You're missing all the fun.
Norm Thagard telling his colleague
you ready
Dave
to come
Wolf
home,
he's
Norm?
missing all the fun.
Well, yeah, I am, but I must say I've got mixed emotions. On the one hand, you want to come home, and on the other hand, you think, well, I'd like to do this for just a little while longer.
We understand.
Norm Thagard has served as scientist and guinea pig on this mission.
It's good to talk with you, and it'll be good to see everybody when we land.
You can now
That's
see
great.
Norm
It'll be another great welcoming ceremony then.
on the left side of your screen on the front row.
Dave, we were wondering if maybe you might be able to count heads at this point and see if we've got everybody here. We think we have everybody here.
Well, that's a lot of people in space at one time. We'll count it up.
The shuttle crew members are wearing red, and the MIR crew members are wearing blue right now.
We count 10 people in view.
If there's anybody else there, he or she is a stowaway.
All president accounted for.
Big wave.
Hello, everybody's waving back.
That's great, Darby.
I think they'll start their ceremony probably any second, and we'll just listen in for a bit and see if that happens.
Your families are all waving from the viewing room.
MIR commander now about to begin the ceremony.
Мы рады приветствовать на борту экипаж СТС-71. Такого количества космонавтов и астронавтов на борту еще орбитального комплекса МИР никогда не было. Так что мы очень рады видеть их. Эта стыковка и этот полет будет не просто обыкновенной стыковкой, это еще будет одним политическим, наверное, шагом к сплочению наших народов России и Америки. Очень приятно наблюдать здоровых, очень жизнерадостных людей на станции. И я думаю, что у нас работа состоится, и мы ее выполним очень хорошо и в полном объеме. Спасибо.
Спасибо. Спасибо, Володя. Сколько лет, сколько зим. Сегодня мы, наконец, пожидаем нашу дружбу после полета Союза Поло. Вместе мы построим будущее на основе сотрудничества, доверия и дружбы. Сегодня это наша важная, настоящая миссия. Спасибо. Dave, we have maybe about one thing left, and that's to see if they're going to let us, if we can plant our sticker somewhere here. We may not be allowed to, but we're going to take a look and see if we can put our sticker up.
There's a distinctive
Copy.
sticker.
We have 6 more minutes until Tidra's handover.
For the Atlantis MIR mission. It's in English and Russian. And let's just see. The opening ceremony, as you heard, was in Russian. My Russian is horrible, but I heard about cooperation between the NASA engineers and the Energia, the Russian Space Agency engineers, and about the astronauts and the cosmonauts.
Dave, we're going to shift our TV camera a little bit here to catch Dr. Dunbar applying the sticker to the wall of the MIR.
Copy, we're watching.
Bonnie Dunbar, a geologist, an astronaut, a former CNN astronaut commentator, and a happy astronaut at this moment, I would bet. She's peeling the backing off of the mission sticker. Uh-oh, something happened to our television. Let's hope it comes back before the sticking of the sticker.
Dave, we're pulling a battery swap.
You know how it is when you're making home movies of your kids? You know the battery's going to die right when you're doing the important thing. That's what just happened. They're going to put a new battery in their handy cam, and perhaps it'll come back up in a second. While they do that, let's take a quick break. CNN and CNN International coverage of this mission. Nope, there we go. We're back to the live picture. Let's go and stick with it for just a second or two more and see if we can see what's going to happen next.
We see you too.
Okay. Bonnie Dunbar, Colorado native, and as you can see, a smiling, happy astronaut at this moment.
Okay, we have a great image of the joint patch from the U.S.-Russian space program.
Using that term loosely, right? It does get wet.
We'd all like to tell you how inspiring it was to watch our country's two great spacecraft dock together out there, and it's just they're beautiful spacecraft.
Astronaut Dave Wolf, the capsule communicator for this mission. Here's Norm Thagard.
Dave, we agree. This was a pretty spectacular day for all of us, and it was a real thrill for us to get to see the Mir floating freely out there as it has done for so many years now, and after all the training and the preparation, it seems hard to believe that we're actually there, but indeed we are.
This is Mission Control Houston. In their comments to one another, commanders Vladimir Dezhurov and Hoot Gibson exchanged greetings. Dezhurov indicating that the docking of Atlantis to Mir earlier this morning was another step for the United States and Russia on the road to joint cooperation in space. Dezhurov saying we will cooperate very successfully in the future.
We have 2.5 minutes left on the West satellite.
Fluorescent lighting aboard the Mir.
We're signing the sticker now, Dave, that Bonnie just put up.
Gibson replied that it's been a long time.
Copy, Alan.
Gibson replied that it's been a long time since Apollo-Soyuz, the first docking between international spacecraft 20 years ago. Gibson said we will build cooperation based on friendship into the future, and this is a very important step along the way.
Thank goodness my friend Rob Navius
over the
was able
Pacific
to translate
Ocean,
the Russian.
Handshake in space between.
We were planning on just putting our sticker up there, but they'd like signatures along with it, so we're defacing all the hardware and writing our signatures up there.
Just like a bunch of astronauts. Well, this mission is going to continue until the 7th of July for the American astronauts. They'll stay docked to the Mir until the 4th of July. And we are now joined on the telephone from Moscow, or the Russian Mission Control Center, by NASA Administrator Daniel Golden. Mr. Golden, we've been talking about this day in anticipation, you and I, for a long, long time. It is here. How are you doing?
I want to tell you, I'm looking at a TV, and I'm seeing 4 cosmonauts and 6 astronauts in space. And this is the achievement of a dream. And I'm so proud of the NASA team. I have such respect for our Russian friends. This is a wonderful mission.
Tell me what it was like in Mission Control in Moscow. We didn't see any pictures there. We saw pictures in Houston, of course, when the docking was confirmed to be complete.
The first thing I did was hug Yuri Kopchev. And he hugged me, but Yuri's a big man. He weighs about 300 pounds. His hug was pretty good.
Foreground, Mir 19 Commander Anatoly Soloviev talking to flight controllers.
Has anything cropped up in the nature of a problem? We have heard nothing about anything going wrong. It all just seems to be going picture perfect from what we can tell. Is that the impression you get from there as well?
Fresh flowers, fruit, and chocolate.
That's correct. But you know, John, when you go to the space frontier, you never know what's going to happen. And right now, it's going very, very well. And I think this is testimony to the long work and the hard hours and Russians flying to America, Americans flying to Russia, and really trying to understand how to do this right.
No, it certainly appears to be going right. Daniel Golden, Administrator of NASA, thank you very much for taking time out of this important day in your career and your personal life to chat with us. Also, we'd like to thank CNN science correspondent Miles O'Brien with astronaut Eileen Collins in Houston, who've been providing commentary all day. We may hear from the two of you again before it's over with. And to our viewers on CNN and CNN International around the world, thank you for joining us today for this live event coverage from CNN. Coming up, we're going to have Mary Tillotson with CNN and Company continuing on CNN and CNN International. We'll have more international news for you. I'm John Holloman. Thanks for being here.
This has been a CNN Live event. From CNN International, this is World News with Riz Khan from CNN Center in Atlanta.
Hello and welcome. The last time they met like this, it was 20 years ago, and the Earth was a much different place. And now Russians and Americans have once again joined their spacecraft in orbit. And there are high hopes for many more meetings in the future. CNN's Miles O'Brien is at the Johnson Space Center with more details. Hello, Miles.
Hello, Riz. The hatch is open, the formalities are over, and now the real work begins. Right now, the crews of the Space Station Mir and the Space Shuttle Atlantis are each giving the other a safety briefing on their respective craft, and then they will soon begin the process of transferring equipment to and fro on the vehicles. The vehicles combined now make the largest satellite ever to orbit the Earth. And the docking occurred a little more than 2 hours ago, the handshake about an hour ago. And let's take a look at the sights and sounds of that historic occasion.
You guys are upside down. Эту руку вторую, да, где-то на трансформатор поставь сюда, как обычно, да. А вот этой вот диафрагму, вот этой рукой, вот диафрагму здесь, да. Вот здесь, сейчас, да, обрати ее, ты увидишь, обрати. Ага, да. Все нормально? Да. Welcome to the space.
This was the spectacular scene earlier as the Space Shuttle Atlantis, commanded by Hoot Gibson, inched slowly, ever so slowly, a tenth of an inch per second toward the Space Station Mir. It was exactly as it had been planned. He flew down a very narrow cylindrical cone, which at its end gave him only about 3 inches margin for error. And by all accounts and by what we can see from the ground here, he simply nailed that approach and initiated a successful docking, which was a soft and safe docking. It's an important milestone in the history of space, and as we look forward to building the International Space Station, which both NASA and the Russian space program are endeavoring to do, this is an important milestone because dockings like this have to occur if you're going to build something that large in space. Joining me live here in Houston is astronaut Eileen Collins, who flew on a shuttle mission in February, which got as close as 37 feet to the Mir. They took a peek at the Mir, and a grand and beautiful craft she is. What are your thoughts today as you see this docking, a successful docking? It's got to be a good day for everyone here at NASA.
Well, it's a great day for us. We're all elated here. Things have gone just wonderful up to this point. I'm not going to say it was luck. It's a result of a lot of hard work from people in Russia and the United States who've worked together over the past 3 years.
Hoot Gibson is known as one of the best pilots there is, and that's probably why he got this
That's
mission.
right.
I guess it doesn't surprise you to see he made a successful docking with such ease, apparently.
Right. Well, my personal feeling is Hoot is probably one of the best pilots in the world, and he didn't surprise me at all. He was right on.
Well, in the end, what will this mission have proven, do you think?
Well, I think obviously this mission proves that the United States and Russia, two of the largest countries in the world, can work together in a highly technical enterprise such as space exploration. and bring our programs together. And the two programs separately were good, but together we can make them better.
This is the first of 7 total dockings between the shuttle and Mir, and there will be a series of activities which will go on during these dockings to bring solar arrays, equipment will go back and forth, crew members will go back and forth. Let's talk about the near term, though. What's going to happen in the next few days as these two craft are joined? A lot of things are going to be going on. It's going to be a busy place.
Right. Well, I think the transfer is probably the biggest thing that will be taking place. Not only the 2 cosmonauts and 1 astronaut from Mir will become part of the shuttle crew, and the 2 cosmonauts that launched on the shuttle will become the Mir crew. But the other thing that will take place is the scientific experiments that have flown over the past 3 months and longer will be taken from Mir into the shuttle and brought back to the United States for our scientists to analyze. And that's probably one of the most important parts of the mission.
Important, and yet, in retrospect, when the milestone is judged, I'm sure it will be judged on other criteria.
Well, that's true.
Thank you very much for joining us, Eileen Collins. Riz, we will continue to be monitoring the events in space. The safety briefing is underway. We've got 5 days of activities as Atlantis and Mir are joined on a very historical mission.
Miles, thanks very much. CNN's Miles O'Brien joined us from Texas there at the Johnson Space Center. Well, and that's World News for now. I'm Riz Khan from me and the team. Thanks for joining us. We'll have more World News in about 15 minutes, but we leave you with another look at the Mir Atlantis shuttle link-up.
Режим S02, ячейка 2.0.
Again, Atlantis will stop at a point 30 feet from the Mir space station for 5 additional minutes of station keeping, at which point...
1 foot.
Houston, Atlantis, we have capture.
Copy, capture.
Welcome to the space.
Cosmonauts are enjoying a reunion in space. For the first time in 20 years, a U.S. and Russian spacecraft have come together in orbit.
The space shuttle Atlantis docked with the Mir space station just a little while ago. CNN's John Hallman was one of many of us here watching in amazement. He joins us now.
It was it's kind of like the 3 of us. You know, we never get together as a threesome, and now we are. The astronauts and cosmonauts have been planning this for just a long, long time, and there was a lot of anticipation there would be big problems once they got up there. Hoot Gibson, the commander of the shuttle, had to steer this thing within about this much leeway to get it where it was going to go. And the pictures that you see here show the actual docking itself. The Mir is on the top left-hand side of your screen with the shuttle at the bottom left, and then the camera that Hoot Gibson was using to steer himself into the docking adapter on board the Mir is on the right. In probably 5 or 10 seconds, you'll see the 2 pieces of spaceship come together. It was just an amazing event. We got pictures from the Mir, we got pictures from the shuttle Atlantis, and now the 2 vehicles are docked. They've done the leak check. They've gotten together. You saw the big wave photograph. All 10 of the people, most people who've ever been in space at the same time on the same sort of spaceship in the history of manned spaceflight in the world. And what we've got to show you is the beginning of this, when the shuttle commander, Hoot Gibson, went in, shook hands with Vladimir Dezhurov. And you can hear the applause there. It wasn't from down here on Earth. It was from Mission Control in Houston. I talked to Dan Golden, who's the administrator of NASA, who watched the whole thing in Mission Control just outside of Moscow. And he said his counterpart in the Russian space program, a huge bear of a guy, Yuri Kopchev, who weighs 300 pounds, came over, threw his arms around Golden, and Golden said he almost didn't recover, but it was a big moment. And a lot of tears on both sides of the ocean as this event happened. Here's what the astronauts looked like when they did the big wave. That's a shot that'll go in the history books. As we were talking earlier today, John, and the other folks who were participating in our coverage, it just seemed to me amazing that we were able to participate with a really good front row seat to this thing in history. This is one of the things that will definitely go into the history books. Another place where people were watching, as I said, was the Johnson Space Center in Houston. CNN's Miles O'Brien is out there. He's been there as well. And Miles, you tell me, you were pretty close to one of the astronauts who was there, who may well get to go up to the Mir at some point. What was the atmosphere like around you when this thing happened?
A lot of relief, a lot of excitement. A high-stakes mission for NASA. NASA is putting all of its chips, as it looks toward the future, into the International Space Station. In order to build an International Space Station, you need to work well with your international partners. This was a significant milestone on a technical level in many ways. It proved that some of their equipment works. It proved that they can communicate well and coordinate such a mission in a timely manner. It proved that, quite frankly, the flying could be done because it was a complex task, even though Hoop Gibson made it look easy. So this was a significant milestone. It will be looked back upon as a turning point for NASA and for the Russian space program. And it remains to be seen, however, whether that's going to lead to an International Space Station. A lot of other issues ahead, a long road ahead, but an important first step.
I was talking, Miles, while you were talking just now, we saw some NASA animation of one version of the International Space Station sort of float by around you. That's certainly the ultimate step, I guess, as NASA continues to plan these missions where they dock with the smaller Russian space station, the Mir, in preparation for doing the actual construction on this big international station, which will have contributions from Japan, from the European Space Agency, from the Canadians. It's really quite a thing. As you continue to cover this, have you been able to talk to any of the NASA managers? Are they feeling good about this?
Well, I've just been looking at the briefing, which is going on even as we speak, and there's a fair amount of elation, it's safe to say. As I say, the stakes were high, and the fact that this was a success and came off without a hitch, or at least so it seems, heartens them quite a bit. This is just the beginning of phase one, though, in a three-phased approach, which NASA hopes will ultimately lead to this International Space Station. There will be a total of 7 dockings, including this one, between space shuttles and Space Station Mir. That will go a long way toward practicing techniques for construction in space. Spacewalks are planned with cosmonauts and astronauts. Equipment will be transported back and forth, and so will astronauts and cosmonauts. And once that phase is over with, and you start looking toward the construction of the International Space Station, which is supposed to begin in late 1997, then those issues well have been worked out as far as dealing with dockings and communication and moving material and cosmonauts and astronauts into space, because we're talking about 35 launches to get this huge, as big as 3 747 space station built in orbit. 20 of them shuttle launches, lots of spacewalk time, an incredibly complex task, and so there's still a long way to go and a lot to learn here.
Miles O'Brien, thanks a lot. One of the lessons, Hillary, that they want to learn about this is how is the human body affected by being in space weightless for more than 100 days? I haven't done the math today, but it's about 108 days.
But the Russians have been up there for even longer than that, haven't they?
But they haven't had the sophisticated medical test equipment that is aboard the shuttle right now, or that will be available to them on the ground in Florida and Texas after they return to Earth. Norm Thagard is the American who's now been in space longer than any other American. He's a medical doctor. Weightless adaptation is his specialty. So he's been using his cosmonaut buddies and himself as guinea pigs the whole time they've been up there. Now that they're aboard the shuttle, Dr. Ellen Baker, who is also a specialist in this, will take the 3 people who've been up there the longest, put them back in this hospital room or doctor's office, if you like, in the back of the shuttle. Yeah, and it's going to be awful. Thagard told me at the beginning of this that he was not really looking forward to being stuck and having blood drawn and all his bodily fluids kept in baggies, but that is what's happening, and it's going to continue to happen for some months into the future.
All right, John Holloman, thanks very much for all that insight and information.
Always good to see you.